Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. What we're doing today, guys, we're going to talk about the winners and the losers. So there's been a whole bunch of new stuff that's kind of dropping over the last few weeks or whatever. I want to talk about which champions have kind of massively flown up the ranks, which champions are now in the dirt. And really I'm trying to focus this on Dungeons 21 to 25 coming in, but also the change in the arena meta with things like reaction gear proccing, things like swift parry now being like so prominent in the arena. So let's get into it. Now, before I talk about these champions, there's two giveaways on the Hell Hades site. I'm just going to draw your attention to it. You can go and check it out in your own time. But two giveaways. The first one is a account giveaway. So if you guys are interested, you just need to come and read the rules, get involved. There's also this huge giveaway for May. So that's just a case of getting yourself in the mix if you want to win $100 Play Store voucher, some merch, and a premium membership. You just need to come and get involved in some very simple 2-second things. So if you want to get involved, guys, come and do it. I'll link this below as ever. But let's get into this then. So who do I think? I'm going to start with the losers. Who is dropping out of the meta? Who's got less playtime? And there's going to be a controversial one in here. I'm interested to know your thoughts. Two, actually, probably. But the first one for me, the biggest loser, unfortunately, is one of my favourite champions. So with the nerf to enemy max HP skills, he really doesn't have a lot else in his kit to offer. So pretty much all of the other enemy max HP skill champions have got something else in their kit that you could kind of argue, you know what, they're still useful because they've got that turn meter drop or that decreased speed or that stun, or, there's something else in their kit that makes you say, you know what, they're still really good even for Dungeons 21 to 25 for a reason. Septimus, really, for both Doom Tower, since they nerfed or since they buffed the bosses on Doom Tower, and for Dungeons 21 to 25, he's really been hard nerfed, which is a shame because he's probably, when he's hitting hard, he's one of the most fun champions in the game. Obviously, people are still going to use him for Dungeon 20, and if you're kind of working your way through to Dungeon 20 stuff, he's still one of the most fun champions in the game. But just, little by little, this guy has been taking it hard, which is harsh. The other one, which I'm going to call out in this kind of like nerf, it's not nerf, it's losing some of their oomph, is going to be Raw Guard for a similar reason. He's got the enemy max HP skill. Now, if you're talking Dungeons 21 to 25, it actually doesn't hit hard enough to really make him that viable for wave clearing unless you don't have one of the masters of doing it. So he still hits hard, but the waves hit so damn hard back at you now that if you take a hit and you're using Raw Guard, he is down. He's down and out. There's no way you're keeping him alive. And he won't do the same sort of damage on the bosses that he used to. So he does bring a decreased speed, in fairness, and he does bring a bit of a turn meter drop. So you might use him on Fire Knight. I've tried him on Fire Knight. I just felt like if you take a hit, he's dead. Simple as that. Because they just hit so damn hard. The weird thing about what they've done with 21 to 25 is they've scaled up damage like crazy, but they didn't really scale up speed or resistances. I would rather they went the other way. Scale up the adds we're up against, their speeds, their resistances, to force us to build stats, rather than scale up pure damage, which means it's incredibly difficult to play with, numerous different playstyles. So Raw Guard for me has taken a bit of a dive to the dirt. Now the next one, I'm going to talk about two arena champions here. Two arena champions which are falling out of the meta, certainly at the higher end of the game. Hedgy is one. There's now quite a lot of established ways to counter a Hedgy. Crypt being one extreme version and Morley being another extreme version. But as time goes on, what used to be probably the best champion in the arena meta, or one of at least, is slowly but surely filtering out. And we see less and less Hedgemons now at higher gameplay. Doesn't mean if you're working your way through the game, guys, would I say, don't level a Hedgy, don't use a Hedgy? Of course not. He's still crazy. But I'm just saying, in terms of like who's taken a bit of a pumped to the downside. Hedgy's going to be one of those that we see less and less. And then the other one, which I never thought I'd see this day, but it does seem like Crypt is taking a bit of a back seat compared to where he used to be. It's much easier now. The resistance meta is kind of dead. There's not really a resistance meta going on. So his shields are pretty easy to remove. You know, if you're not running high resistance and he's running big shields at the start, you know what? We're just going to strip those off. There's plenty of champions now that do it. And Crypt is going to be one of those champions that we just see less and less, which is crazy. I mean, he's still, don't get me wrong here, outside of the arena, he's still absolute god tier. I'm sure he's been used in a load of dungeon 21 to 25 stuff to help you through it and carry you all the way to the end. But because he's basically like Visix Mark II, even with the Visix buff. So Crypt still amazing, but for where he was most played in the game as a staple in the arena, I feel like he's taken a bit of a back seat. Let's talk about some of the champions then that are flying up. So there's a few groups of champions, and we're going to talk about those. And then there's just some individuals. So let's talk about the first group. HP burns. It's pretty obvious why. I mean, if you've got an HP burn champion, then Spider 21 to 25 is infinitely faster. It's by far the best way to kill the Spider is HP burns. So if you've got someone like now top tier Sakia, the fastest possible spider runs are being done by Sakia. I tried it on stream actually and failed miserably, but I kept getting it so close, but didn't have my speed set up right. But Sakia burning the enemies, popping the burns in one go, just does an insane amount of damage. Her AI is a bit wonky. She's kind of difficult to manage, but she is top tier now. She's massively flown up the ranks, especially given her affinity. So Sakia is one of them. We could call them all out, to be honest. Wrong button. Ignatius up there as well. He's in some of the fastest teams in the game because his burn cannot be resisted. And then obviously the new champion, I'm trying to think where he is this faction yet. Mordecai, for me, one of my favorites because he also brings a bit of turn meter manipulation as well. And he's got a really good cooldown on his burn. So the HP burn champions are stepping up, and they're just top tier for Spider especially, but also for a bunch of Doom Tower content as well. So any of them really to call out. I'd say Ultimate Gaelic's taking a bit of a back seat because he's just not as good as the rest. You really want a full HP burn. And I guess you could throw into the mix as well anyone who spreads debuffs. So if you don't have any of those AoE burn champions, who am I looking for? Someone like Vizier, who's got the ability to spread debuffs. Someone like Harken Greatblade. There's not many actually, there's only a handful, but any of those champions that can spread a debuff, if you don't have the proper HP burn, you get someone like, I don't know, Bulwark, throw an HP burn on there, and then these guys just spread it everywhere else. And then all of a sudden you've got yourself your HP burn across the whole team. So anyone with these abilities are going to be taking a big step forward. One of the champions that I'm most pleased about coming to the forefront, and this is the next tier of next group, if you like, because we never would have expected it. I don't have him, but Crypt King Brahl. This guy is just like stepped up for Spider with this change. This ability to place a freeze on anyone under an HP burn, because this Spiderlings hurt so much, and it cannot. This effect cannot be resisted as well with the HP burn. Basically, all you're doing is you're slowing down the enemy Spiderlings, and by freezing them, so you're not taking the damage, and you're extending the burns even further. So this ability here on Crypt King has now become top tier. So yeah, anyone AoE freezer. So we've got a few more that could come into the mix. My personal favourite epic in the game fits in this group. So Achak, the Wender in here. So, I mean, just this A3 is ridiculous. AoE freeze, and then the ability to gain more turn meter and healing back here. Achak has just gone and flown up and become a really desirable champion. Not just epic, desirable champion in the game. So any of the freezers, so Gergo, Shiramani, any of those champions that stop the Spiderlings coming at you have just like massively soared for Spider 21 to 25. Now, in terms of just kind of rounding off Spider, I did a video on this the other day, but Coldheart's still queen of the end game, and she's moved from Fire Knight now into Spider. So although she only does a 10% max damage Heartseeker, and although she will only do 50% turn meter drop, she's still like, I see two of them in pretty much any quality endgame team, or at least one and a reset champion. So she's still up there, one of the best champions for the endgame. So she's actually, if anything, risen in quality, because you know you're going to use her right the way through to Dungeon 20 as one of your hard hitters. And then 21 to 25, she steps up into the best possible teams for Spider. And she'll probably be in a lot of Fire Knight teams as well. So that's kind of like, I guess, done Spider. Let's talk about just general wave content. How are people getting through the waves? Who's risen in those ranks? Now, funny enough, people like Elenaril and Xavier are both the two best ways, other than the next champion we'll come to clear waves. So the combustibility paired with a ton of poison, you can clear waves in no time at all, which allows you to do speed running on Dragon, Fire Knight, and Ice Golem. So those abilities have soared, but when you come to the actual boss, it will only hit for 10% of the damage. You actually don't want this to happen at all. You actually want them to be geared in a way that they're just going to die when the boss does his first attack. But in terms of wave clear, and the waves take a long time to kill if you don't have one of these mechanics, so those have kind of pipped up a bit. But this champion, you wouldn't have thought she could rise any further up. She's literally got the biggest head in Raid right now. She's walking through doors like this, like having to counterbalance the wobble of the head. She is insane for any wave clear. She's the fastest way to clear any waves in the game. Doom Tower, now all of the dungeon bosses. It's just kind of like anything apart from Spider. She is the endgame champion to do fast dungeon stuff. So Seer, we didn't think she could get higher. She's managed it. She's now ridiculous. Void champion as well, so she just plays anywhere. But yeah, absolutely crazy how OP one champion can get for like a set of content. If we're then talking about how to beat bosses, a couple of interesting ones. So one champion which I'm really pleased about that's popped up as well, Tomb Lord. So Tomb Lord, with his multi-poison, with his decreased defense and attack, decreased speed, he becomes a really strong champion for a lot of these boss fights. For Fire Knight, strong. For Ice Golem, strong. Even for Dragon, strong with the different abilities that he's popping in with. So actually, Tomb Lord has kind of soared a touch, which is nice because he's probably living in quite a lot of vaults right now. And then really there's this kind of like whole raft of support-based champions. People like Rectordraft, people like Volgoth, people like Visix, people like Seal, which just help teams get to a boss if you don't have any of these kind of crazy mechanics going on. So I think in terms of champions for different bosses, we've talked through a lot. I just want to talk through 4 more champs. Last one for dungeons is going to be Husk. Unlikely hero, Husk now with that AoE ability to do enemy max HP. He actually hits pretty hard with this. On bosses, same as anyone else, it'll be 10% hit, but he's also got a stun that goes alongside it. So he is someone, a bit like Coldheart, that's bringing decent utility alongside his enemy max HP skill. So Husk, I think, has kind of gone up a bit in quality, in requirement for some of this stuff. And then the last 3, which I'm going to talk about, are all going to be arena champions. Now, the reason why I'm focusing on arena here, there's 2 massive changes, yeah? And they're ebbing in. They're just kind of like starting to flow in. But Swift Parry's been around for a long time. If you've watched any of my Plat reset videos, anyone in the higher echelons of the game, they're putting Swift Parry on defensive-based champions, which means there's a 50% chance that they become unkillable. Yeah. So being able to whack through unkillable is going to be strong. Someone like a Rotus kind of pops back into the meta. But being able to stop the unkillable going up at all is particularly strong. And who would have thought that this old fusion, Mossbeard here, would become top tier for the arena? And he is now. So the ability to put 100% chance of block buffs on all enemies, which means that swift parry proc will do nothing, is so strong. So he becomes like a top tier legendary for the arena. And then another one, which is particularly good against the reaction gear, is someone who's already strong and now he's got somewhere else to be the best champion in the game at. I'd say he's potentially, he might even be the best arena champion now in the game. Because Crazy Aura, perfect. He's got this attack all enemies, so it is an attack. Removes all buffs, so it's a full cleanse like a Madame would do. And puts a sleep on them. So why is this such a good skill? It activates the reaction accessories. So they're done and dusted. You've cleaned any buffs off from Krisk or whoever else. You've put them to sleep, so they're going to miss a turn. Okay? And if they're asleep, then there's also masteries which buff your damage when people are asleep. So the mastery you're looking for is this one here. Increases damage to targets with a stun, a sleep, a fear, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so you get 12% of a bigger hit. So I just see that Kymar is just going to be in more and more arena teams as time goes by, as the reaction accessories get more and more prevalent in the meta. And the cool thing as well is once you've done all your big hits, if they're not dead yet, you know what he does? He says, do them again. You've not finished yet. Try that again. And then just smack everyone again. So Prince Kymar, absolutely like soaring in the meta, certainly for the arena. And I can just see over time, more and more so, he is going to be the best. The best. I've said Madame was the best. I think he's taken a place since reaction accessories have come in. And you need to do some sort of lightweight hits. So there you go, guys. Lots of changes that have happened in the meta over the last few weeks. I guess let me know in comments below. Do you have any alternatives to that I've not called out that you would say, you know, they've champions, even from like rares through to legendaries, anyone that you've seen absolutely fly up in importance? I've been Hell Hades. I will see you later.